Hey, welcome to Thinking It's Unfed Up podcast with Joe
and John.
And we're back.
We are back. It's been a little while, right, Joe? It's been about a month. I think the last time we recorded was right when school was ending, right, for you?
Yep.
So here we are in the middle of the summer, and we just had a pretty strong heat wave here in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
How you been handling the heat, Joe?
Kind of well. Pretty well. Honestly, we've been, doing more inside stuff.
It's almost, you almost have to do inside stuff when it's been this hot. I mean, we had a break in the last few days, but, it's been a pretty hot week, right?
Yeah.
And, Joe, what have you been doing on this, for this past month? I know we spoke a little bit about the vacation, right? You went on?
With Myrtle.
So any highlights, anything you want to talk about?
Good.
What was your favorite part of that trip?
I liked the speedboat rides and the when we were on the racing stuff. I hit the cone when I was supposed to get out after Jake got out, but I didn't know
on
that.
The
so
boat?
No, I meant I'm the racing, go-kart racing.
Go-karts. Okay.
Yeah.
So Joe drove a go-kart.
Yeah. And I hit the cone, and I also got stuck in how someone bumped me, and they literally pushed me to the side.
Oh no!
So I got stuck there.
Oh no! So, but is this the first time you ever really was behind the wheel and actually operating a motorized?
Yeah.
So what did you think? How did you think you did? After
kind
did
of
you get
okay.
Used to
I
it
felt
after a while?
yeah, I did, but I couldn't really brake, nor could I I didn't really know how to slow it down. So when I tried to slow down, I couldn't do it.
So I guess you know what, and Joe, you're going to be approaching the time where you're going to be possibly taking driver's ed. Do you think this is going to be something that you're going to have a challenge with the brake and the gas and stuff and coordinating everything?
Yeah.
I think that's something that as you know, if you're a loyal listener, Joe was on the spectrum and some coordination, right, issues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you got used to it at the end.
Yeah, I did.
All right, good. So that's the thing with driving. You just got to get used to where you put your foot, where and concentrate on the road, concentrate on your foot pressure. You'll learn it. It'll come.
Okay.
So anything else? What else was good about the trip? Is there any other highlights other than you said you did a speedboat too?
Yes,
that must have
been
fun.
Was fun. Yeah, they put us on a speedboat and just had these really janky turns and stuff. Yeah,
and you had to I'm sure you had to put a life vest on and stuff like that.
Yes,
did they strap you in or did they let you just sit?
No, they let you just sit.
Interesting. But the weather was good when you were there.
I was kind of scattered thunderstorms, so there were scattered thunderstorms for most of the days. Yeah. No. So we had to find times where it wasn't raining to do stuff.
So we're back, and the first segment, and one of the things we also were talking about on the last segments was one of Joe's favorite shows of all time, and we would like to start the podcast discussing it a little bit and discussing are they the producers of it or
producers?
The producers of it. So Joe's favorite show or one of his favorites is Stranger Things, and they just finished up. What was it, season 4
now?
Right, and they had they released a bunch of episodes. I don't remember the exact count in the original.
Seven, and then 2.
Then two additional episodes
to close it off.
To close out the season. So, what'd you think of this season, Joe?
I thought the first 7 episodes were amazing. I thought that. Especially the 4th episode. The 4th episode was it included some of the best scenes in the show. With the action scene. Actually, this is spoilers. So little spoilers ahead. But there's an action scene with the government guys when they're going to the house with the kids. Mm-hmm. I love that scene because it just comes out of nowhere, kind of.
Yeah, there was a lot of this season was more
horror,
right?
Yeah,
you nailed it, Joe. I was thinking the exact same thing.
Horror.
It was more horror, but it wasn't gory horror, disgusting, you want to throw up horror. It was just definitely a horror type of a
season.
Season.
Yeah, they really went all in on horror. I kind of liked it. I kind of liked how Vecna could be used as more of symbolism. Like, people have already said this, but it's more of like he's kind of a symbol of many other like mental illnesses and like mental trauma and stuff like that.
I found it interesting. Now, if anyone is somewhat familiar of it, again, spoiler alert. There's the evil character. Let's just say.
Yeah.
He almost channels himself from to people who are stuck in a very dark mental place, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you would describe
yeah, pretty
it?
much.
That's how
yeah,
I describe it.
he pretty much goes into their mind and kind of makes their dark memories kind of
take over and eventually kill them, right?
Yeah.
So and he's picking people, kids, right? Younger people that have experienced very, very deep trauma in their lives.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, and again, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, but I think if you've watched it, I think so many people have watched it by now. But there's an interesting scene where they discuss how all the kids that were that Vecna channeled or killed or went after, all went to the same therapist. I'm wondering if there's a link to that one therapist.
Maybe. There have been some theories that she's actually working for Vecna,
That's what I'm
that
thinking.
like, because she actually had like a little clock there.
I have to rewatch it now.
Actually,
and
oddly
see
enough,
the
there was like a
scenes.
clock netlist or something.
And
so
that's right, because every time someone was,
the clock would come on.
the clock would chime, what,
Four
four times? Yep. And oh man, now I have to rewatch it. So that's a good idea. If anyone has been watching or watched Stranger Things, go back and watch the scenes with the therapist, because there may be some, what do they call those, Easter eggs? Is that what they call them?
Yeah.
That give you a reveal, because I think, my personal opinion, I think there's going to be something to do with that therapist. There's too much of a link there.
Yeah, I feel like maybe either she's working for Vecna, or maybe she's trying to help them fight Vecna, but she's like failing. I don't know. Or maybe she knows about it all, like secretly, but she can't tell anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that could be possible. I don't know.
So there's going to be one more season, right, Joe? And one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about Stranger Things a little bit is there's also the producers of this, which I've never heard of them before. Joe,
Duffer Brothers.
Yeah, but were they big prior to this? Was this their first real
Yes,
hit?
it was their first real hit, actually, interestingly enough. The Duffer Brothers approached actually many different TV networks with Stranger Things. All of them turned them down until Netflix came around and gave them the green light.
So interesting that all these people turned it down. I really thought, if anyone has seen this show, it was, the first season was definitely fantastic, and I think it's been a very solid series ever since. But the way they were able to morph the horror genre, the adventure genre,
the action
the 80s,
genre,
the action,
even.
and having kids involved in it, and kids doing their own investigating work, so it was a pretty amazing show, and I'm surprised that some of the other networks did not want to pick up Stranger Things, but I'm glad it went on to Netflix, because even though I'm not the biggest fan of Netflix, I like the fact that you can it's in between what you would see on network TV and the movies, as far as
it's true.
You could do more. They could expand it more. You can you can have you could be a little edgier.
I feel like that potential isn't really being realized right now, but I do think that it does have more potential than TV networks. But
so what are these guys? These guys built this series, and they must be somewhat around my age, because they definitely are spot on in hitting what was happening during the 80s.
Yeah.
And the music, the technology. So there was so much in there that I truly enjoyed from being my age, because really, Joe, those kids are my age in that show.
Yeah.
So every year they're in, that was my age, and that's why I'm lucky. I'm seeing it from their perspective, and I'm really enjoying the show. So what are these guys up to next, Joe? I know you've been doing some research on what these producers are doing.
They've been working on Stranger Things for now, and they're kind of working on the 5th season. But once they're wrapping up that, they're actually going to move on to other projects. They've formed a new company, Upside Down Pictures, to kind of handle all this stuff.
Very cool name too.
And they're producing more Stranger Things content, as well as other stuff, like new stuff. like they're producing a play of Stranger Things, like set in the Stranger Things universe.
Really?
But as like a play. Yeah. That was in the article. They also said that they were producing The Talisman, the Stephen King novel.
Now, what's The Talisman about?
It's apparently about, like, a world, it's, like, about a kid who can, like, go into a dark world called the Territories.
Uh-huh.
So, very much like Upside Down and Stranger Things.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So they're doing the Stephen King. And
yeah.
You said, I thought there was one other thing I remember reading in that
There
article.
was, a Stranger Things spin-off, where they're doing, like, a Stranger Things spin-off series, and they're doing a live-action Death Note for some reason. That was, like, what...
Oh, you said something about anime or something
anime,
like that?
That's an anime show.
Okay, so they're doing an anime. So it's interesting that when someone hits it big like this, like these Duffer Brothers hit it big, all of a sudden now, you know, everyone realizes that these guys have a lot of talent and they have a lot to give, and now they're involved in all these other projects. It's going to be very interesting to see how these next projects evolve.
Come around.
You know, and Stephen King is an excellent novelist. I mean, obviously horror, but he's definitely he has that mind-bending type of books that turn into movies. I've seen a lot of Stephen King movies, and I haven't really read so many of the books, but I've seen some of his movies, and I've seen some of his interesting adaptations that aren't necessarily horror. And I remember one of them was, I think it was called November 22nd, 1963, or something like that, where he writes a story about how this guy is able to go in and out of time warps and try to stop the Kennedy assassination. Ooh. So yeah, it was interesting. It was something I never expected, and it was pretty good. I saw it a few years ago, Joe. So are you into Stephen King? Are you into the horror? I know a lot of kids these age are.
I'm kind of like, I haven't really seen Stephen King's work, but I have seen like many people compare Stranger Things to Stephen King.
It's very much
also,
like
it. I do know that the one of the other producers is Steven Spielberg or something.
Oh yeah, Spielberg is a monster as far as popularity. I mean, he's just incredible.
Yeah, he actually bought the rights to The Talisman to make it into a movie, but that movie never happened.
Okay.
So now they're approaching the Duffer Brothers with a show, and they're gonna work on it.
Good.
That's
idea.
kind of like what they're doing now, because they thought it would fit better in a TV show, and like they just never could get the movie going, so they just kind of now are trying to like work with them on a TV series instead of like a movie.
So now you have some gap and some empty space in between the next Duffer Brothers venture, whether it be the next season of Stranger Things. What does Joe recommend, before we wrap up this segment, what does Joe recommend that you watch, maybe that someone hasn't watched yet? Have you seen something or a series or a show that you're truly enjoying?
I don't know. I've heard of Ozark, but that kind of ended. So I've heard like that Ozark is really good, but that kind of ended. Squid Game is a pretty good show, but that's not coming out for another few years.
Did you watch it?
Yes, I have. I actually really enjoyed it.
Did you think it was very violent, or?
Yeah, it was pretty violent, but
okay.
it was like, I thought it was really good.
Okay.
I thought it was just a really good show.
I have not seen Squid Games, but I am watching Ozark right now. It's interesting you mentioned Ozark, because Joe and I never had a conversation about Ozark. Ozark's a little bit more... It's a little violent, and it's a little violent. It's definitely not for kids. I mean, I guess Joe is kind of on the cusp of being able to watch it, being 16, right? I mean, you know, you can kind of watch it and be okay, but it is a very good show. And the thing about Ozark, Joe, is that every episode, there's not one person in a good place. They're all in trouble all the time for a myriad of reasons. And as soon as they get out of trouble, they get into more trouble. So, very good show. I love Jason Bateman. I think he's a great actor. I think he's hilarious in his comedy roles. And he's the star of Ozark, Joe. Yeah. If you don't know who Jason Bateman is. Actor who's probably maybe a little bit older than I am, a little around my age, and he's a hilarious, funny actor, but he's taking on a very serious role. But he even makes me laugh in this show a little bit. He's not, because he's very quick commenting. But I'm in the middle of that series right now, and I'm loving it. I really do like it. The only problem is I start watching it late at night, and I fall asleep while I'm watching it. And Netflix, Joe, it constantly plays for the next 4 or 5 episodes until it shuts off. off. Now, here's an idea, Joe, that I have. See how my company gave me this little fitness band, right, Joe?
Yeah.
And a lot of these fitness bands can actually identify when you fall asleep. You should be able to tie that to or sync it to your Netflix account, so when you fall asleep, it pauses the show. What do you think about that idea?
That could be pretty cool.
That'd be a great idea. So when you don't fall asleep and it doesn't play 3 extra episodes, and you got to figure out where you left off.
Maybe. That might work.
I got these good ideas, and he doesn't give me any credit for it. He just looks at me and goes, "Yeah, maybe."
Well, I don't know. Just Netflix isn't in a great place right now. It's like
no, it's not.
Yeah,
but
like,
that could enhance their product.
Maybe, but I don't know. Not enough. Like, I feel like it's just like Netflix had all their like good shows pulled.
Yeah.
So a lot of like their good shows
they're
have
struggling.
been pulled.
They're struggling, and I know they had a bad. Their subscribers have gone down. Too many people lifting accounts from others and things like that. But, you know, Joe may not think it's a good idea because he's 16 and he can usually stay up. And I see he posted something on a Facebook account probably like 2 in the morning. And I'm like, Joe, go to bed. If I had seen that, I saw it at 6 when I woke up. But people my age would love something like that where it automatically stops when they fall asleep. Right, Joe?
It could work, but I think, again, they have to, like, improve their service.
Of course.
Okay. And,
Joe's getting antsy. He wants to wrap up. So I guess we'll go on to the next segment, right, Joe?
To the next one. Hey, welcome to our next segment, and we're going to do a Would You Rather.
Yeah, Joe would want to do a Would You Rather game, so we're going to jump into a Would You Rather game, and what I usually do with Joe is I give him a question, a Would You Rather question, and what happens at that point is Joe will lock in his answer, not tell me, and I try to guess what Joe would rather do.
Okay.
All right? Cool. So we haven't done this, we've done this from time to time, and I'm going to hit Joe with a question now. I usually do what? We do, 3, and maybe every once in a while a bonus question?
Yeah.
And I try to guess what Joe's thinking and what Joe would rather do, okay? So here we go. Okay. First one. Would you rather explore space or the ocean, Joe? Ooh. So, Joe, I guess what this would mean is, like, would you rather go up in a rocket ship up into space or one of those, like, submarines and go down into the ocean? So, think about that, Joe, for a moment. Like, you strap on a helmet, go shooting up to space, you get to look down and look at and see the Earth, or go underneath the ocean and explore everything that's down there. Let me know when you're locked in and what your thought. Joe's thinking. I'm trying to read him. If you could see this on a visual, he's contemplating, he's thinking. I got him a little jammed up here.
I'm locked.
He's locked in. All right. I'm going to say Joe would rather explore space.
Correct.
All right. So, Joe, why would you rather explore space?
Because I really want to go up there and see a lot of, like, the planets that are out there. Just because there's so many that we haven't, like, gone to yet. And I just feel like I love, the whole idea of, like, going to, like, other planets and stuff and exploring the galaxies and stuff like that.
So now, have you seen the video of the new telescope? The space telescope or something. Have you seen that?
I've seen that. I actually
pretty incredible pictures,
right?
Yeah,
they have some, like, pictures from, like, well, that's actually how it looked like billions of years ago.
Yeah.
Because light takes a long time to, like, come to us.
Isn't that
so
mind-boggling?
It actually preserves, like, the picture. That's how the galaxy looked so long ago.
Isn't that mind-boggling that we're only seeing images from, what would you say, millions of years ago? I mean, that is mind-boggling to me. I can't wrap my head around it. Can you? Can you wrap your head around it?
Yeah,
like my brain hurts so much thinking about it.
It takes so long for the light to come here that by the time you take the image, it's like it's already been like.
And think of how fast light travels, and that's just absolutely incredible. So what we're seeing, the images we're seeing now, were millions of years ago.
Billions of years ago.
Absolutely insanity.
I think it was like 2-point-something billion years or something.
Joe, what's the meaning of life then? Really? I mean, really. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but, like, how vast is this universe?
That's true, yeah. We don't even know how big it is.
And we're just this one little speck.
Yeah,
and here we are in this one little podcast in this one little speck, in this one, what we think is a big Earth, but it's not really a big Earth.
It's
in this
kind of
universe.
small
It's
overall,
right?
yeah.
It's absolutely insane. I'm sorry we got off on a tangent here, but it was so interesting, and we can do a whole podcast on that, just space alone, and that could keep me busy. All right, second question. Would you rather be stuck on an island alone or with someone who talks incessantly? So, Joe, would you rather be alone or would you rather be with someone who can't stop talking? Alone on an island.
Yeah.
Or around someone who just talks and talks and talks and talks. So, Joe's got a smirk on his face, probably thinking about some people in his life. Don't name them.
No, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about stuff. This is hard. I'm locked.
You're locked in. Okay. I think, knowing Joe, I think he would rather just want to chill on an island.
Actually, oddly enough, you're wrong.
Oh no!
Because I feel like if I was on an island by myself, I wouldn't be able to do anything there.
All right.
And I'd also probably go insane. So.
All right. I'm glad you said that, Joe. I kind of misread that, and you
insane.
put me in a position where I have one win and one loss, and you made the game a little more exciting.
Okay. So let's do this.
All right. All right. Whew. Now, I'm getting nervous because now I have to pick one here. And I try to pick them that would be difficult. So I really don't try to pick easy ones that I think I would automatically know the answer. All right. Okay, this is a good one. All right. Would you rather have a 10-hour dinner with a headstrong politician of an opposing party? Okay. So it's 10 hours with a politician that you don't agree with at all.
Okay.
10 hours. So now you're thinking right now it's around noon when we're doing this. So you got to go until 10 p.m. with the same human.
Okay.
All right. Or attend a 10-hour concert for a music group you can't stand. Do you have a music group you can't stand, Joe? Like, as soon as you hear them on the radio, you're like, I got to turn this off. This is awful.
Yeah, I do. This was kind of hard.
I gave him a tough one. And you know, for me, I have no idea which way Joe's going to go. I'm really trying to think myself. So, you know, you're sitting down with a politician who's full of baloney, who's talking to you for 10 hours, or you're at a concert with a band you can't stand, or a singer you can't stand for 10 hours.
I'm locked in.
Ooh. All right. I know my answer, and I hope I don't project my answer to Joe and get it wrong. But you know what? I've lost this game before, and I've won this game before. I think Joe likes music. But when he doesn't like music, I really think he really doesn't like music. With a politician, I think Joe's the type of person who can probably hold his own there for someone he disagrees with. So I'm going to say you would rather sit at a dinner with a politician for 10 hours and listen to a band you hate for 10 hours.
Oddly enough, you're wrong. Because I could just put in earplugs at the concert.
Oh, good idea, Joe. Joe thought his way through it. So you could actually have a melody. You could sing a song, your own song in your head, watch people have fun.
And just have fun with them, I don't know. And also, like, I would never be able to, like, stand going to any politician and, like, talking to them and, having them talk to me for 10 hours. I can't do that.
Well, I respect that, Joe. So, all right, so this was a loss. Maybe because I'm a little rusty because we haven't really had a podcast in about a month. But I'll be back. And I'll be back, and I will guess better next time.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
That's the end of this segment.
And on to the next one. Hey, welcome to this segment. And this one's a little bonus one.
And what this episode is going to be chock full of different topics. We're going from a little bit of pop culture, a little bit of a game, and Joe's jumping into a little history, right?
A little bit of history.
So Joe, I'm going to just kick this off to you and just say go and talk. And this is a subject I'm not too familiar with, and Joe, go for it.
This one is a very interesting subject. It's actually about the first Revolutionary mercenaries in Russia. So as you know, Russia's been involved in some wars and stuff currently. But I have heard of from like a very good history channel, and I watched his video on like Russia's first revolution, and it kind of took me away on how like liberal ideas were in Russia and how democratic ideas kind of had a place in Russia. So it kind of begins after the Napoleonic Wars, where...
So the Napoleonic Wars were around the mid to late 1800s, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This actually, it ended in like 1815. So during that time, all the Russian army was fighting France, and they visited all these places where serfdom had actually been abolished, and monarchs actually granted, they recognized the rule of law, and they granted limitations to their power. So they began to think, wait, maybe we should have some of those reforms in Russia. Russia at this time was an absolute monarch, ruled by the emperor who had no limitations on his power. And many of these army officers wanted that to change. And they actually formed two groups. The Northern Society and the Southern Society. The Southern Society was based in Ukraine. The Northern Society was based in the capital of Russia at the time, St. Petersburg. And what they actually wanted to do was kind of actually mixed, because one side, led by a guy named Relev or something, he wanted to have like a constitutional monarchy, and wanted the monarchy to kind of be like our president. So he would kind of have he'd be the executive branch. He'd control the army. He'd have foreign policy and stuff like that. And then the legislature would be like a House of Representatives and a Duma, where people would be allowed to serfdom would be abolished under any of these, and there'd be equality before the law.
Now define serfdom.
Serfdom. This is actually something that I wouldn't expect people to know, but serfdom was when peasants were actually tied to their lands. Very much like, a little bit like slavery, but not quite. Where peasants were actually tied to their lords. So they couldn't leave the land of their lords. The lords had complete control over them. Very much like that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, and... they wanted that to be abolished. They wanted equality. They wanted freedom of the press, freedom of speech, stuff like that. But the other guy, he was in the Southern Society, and he kind of proposed a different plan where the emperor would be abolished altogether. There would be no emperor, and it would just be a republic, with, everyone given the right to vote, all male citizens. At the time, remember, females didn't get the right to vote till the 1900s. So, yeah, that was something that they planned on doing. And they were actually going to at first they were actually going to assassinate the Emperor Alexander, but that kind of failed because Alexander died in southern Ukraine, or actually southern Russia nowadays. So he died there of tuberculosis, and they began planning a coup while the monarchy, the succession was still being sorted out. They planned to seize power in St. Petersburg and have a revolution in Ukraine. The problem was that they didn't plan it all the way through, and the monarchy found out about their plans. And once the monarchy found out, they basically got all the guards regiments in St. Petersburg to kind of swear an oath of loyalty. Actually, the emperor, or at least the emperor that was succeeding Alexander, was not popular with the troops, and they could have kind of used this against him, and they tried to, but the problem is that the troops, a lot of them were required to kind of swear an oath of loyalty. So, the church and the state were very tied together, I guess. So, once they swore the oath of loyalty, their cause would be lost. and they tried to like get the guards regiments to kind of go against them. 3 of them did, but the majority of them chose to side with Nicholas because they hadn't really fanned the flames enough before the revolution. So the revolution was actually suppressed, but it was very interesting what they tried to do and how they tried to do it. They wanted to accomplish it through a military coup, and then have like a provisional government and then a republic that would free all the serfs and get
you know what I find fascinating about that, Joe, is that, you know, did they come close at all? Were they at any point close to doing it?
I mean, they kind of were able, they were high-level officers, and they had prestige. The troops were kind of unhappy because the emperor, actually, this was a little piece that I missed out, but the emperor actually made them have these sort of military camps with serfs, and serfs and soldiers actually lived together in these sort of military settlements, and many of the soldiers were unhappy with the Tsar and the rule of the Tsar. So they could have really done this, but the problem was that their plans were kind of exposed to the monarchy, and the monarchy was able to act quicker than they could. So in the end, it was suppressed. But I do feel like they did have potential to really drive change.
And I wonder what could have happened had that happened. You know, you always wonder, like, what could the world have been like had there not been a rise of the Soviet Union and some of the difficult times with Stalin in the early 1900s.
Yeah, that wouldn't have happened.
You know, things like that may never have happened now. And that's also, it goes to show you how difficult it is to break free of a monarch or a regime, or to break and have your own freedoms. That's what makes America so special. I think this America has been able, and I think one of the big reasons why America was able to break free and was able to gain independence was the fact that it was bordered by 2 oceans, and it must have been very difficult for England to try to manage it.
And also the fact that France was also on their side, because they wanted to crush Britain, as well as Spain and the Netherlands.
But imagine the world right now with a completely different Russia, where it had more freedoms and things like that.
Especially because at the time, that was a big turning point for Russia. If the monarchy was abolished at that point, I don't think there would be a communist blow. Because,
no, I agree.
Like, many of the monarchy stopped reform. The monarchy stopped industrialization. They kind of opposed the ideals, like the peasants were poor because of the monarchy. You know, even the reason the military failed in World War I was because of the monarchy. They didn't industrialize, they didn't modernize. So a modernized, industrialized state a state of Russia would not have fallen to communism or, you know, really anything else. It would be a republic like the U.S. probably is today.
Interesting, Joe. I mean, I love this. I love this research. I learned something. I think Joe, when he sent me something saying he wanted to talk about this. I said, Joe, I didn't even know this happened. So
yeah, it's not known. It's not very well known in the U.S. at least.
And I'm fascinated by by history and how things could have changed if certain small things would have taken place. And this is definitely one of them, especially now in the world where Russia is at war again, and they still have a government that's very suppressive of their people. You know, and it's amazing. It's very difficult for the people to rule anywhere in the world, because once government has power, they're very reluctant to let it go.
That's very true.
And that's why I kind of always, that's why my personal political beliefs are keep government as least powerful as possible. So they can't rise up and gain too much power. Now, the last thing you ever want is more serfdom, right, Joe? The new term that I learned today.
Yeah.
So, and you know, it's funny, Joe. I've heard serfdom so many times before. I never quite understood the definition. So I'm glad you taught me that today.
Yeah, it was a very interesting story. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about it because it's just something that isn't really known too much.
Yeah,
and it's something that just isn't really thought about that really would have important effects down the road. It inspired future revolutions. It kind of led to the monarchy, kind of Russia being a backward state. It kind of led to their defeat in World War I and a lot of these other things that caused massive changes. Like,
amazing.
You know, everything.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Joe, for teaching us a little bit of a history lesson on your Midsummer's Day.
And we'll see you on the next segment. Hey, welcome to the IRL.
And we have just knocked off the rust from about a 1 month layoff. So, you know, I think that we did okay, Joe, today, right?
Yeah.
Got our voices back.
Yeah.
Back into the swing of things. And right now we're both enjoying a nice summer that we have going on right now. And we're glad that you're back and listening to the show with us.
Yeah, I think that we had kind of taken a little while off, so having this is kind of a little bit of you know, we're kind of starting from scratch here, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's been fun. You know what, Joe? It was good to take a little time off. It was good to kind of regain and kind of say, okay, what are we going to be doing, and how are we going to do this, and put good content together. And I truly enjoy it. I'm glad we're back, and I'm looking forward to future segments with you and touching base on some of the things that are going on in the world. I mean, right now we try not to get too deep on the news because, listen, everyone's got news out there, and there's so many news sources out there, and news isn't really happy, right, Joe?
It's true, yeah.
It really isn't. So we try to keep it light. We try not to stay on too topical when it comes to news stories and stuff, because anytime you can just turn on a 24-hour news station and get angry at the news. So
yeah,
right, Joe?
Yeah, you
so
could.
This is we'll let this be our podcast to be a little potpourri of different topics and different subjects, and hopefully you enjoy and learn a little bit from us. And and Joe, I would love to do more things about the outer space. We just started talking about that on a previous segment.
I think that would be very interesting to do. I think,
fascinating.
A lot of like space is just not explored, and it's so weird how we're so like the universe is so vast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like something that you can't really comprehend how vast it really is.
I like we said in the previous segment, it's like bends my brain trying to think about what the world is out there beyond Earth.
Yeah,
you know, and we sit there and we drive for hours just to get to another state, and there's planets and solar systems millions of light years away. It's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
so I like that topic, but if you have any other topics out there, share it on the Facebook page. We'd love to hear your thoughts about episodes coming up. Joe, I'd like for you to engage more in our on our Facebook page, and let's get the traffic going there a little bit more, right, bud?
Yeah. And I actually did post a little bit.
Oh, we loved it. Loved it.
Yeah, I did put a little post, but I will, do more posts in the future. And that's it for the podcast. And
like and share.
Yeah.
If you have Apple Podcasts, there's a button on the top right where it says follow. This way, any episodes that you get from this point forward will jump right onto your phone.
Yep. And we will see you on the next podcast.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.